everybody, I am back. It's been a good 6 weeks, 2 months, however long it's been. I can't even bear to think how long it's been now, but I'm finally back with a brand new video. It's just been mental the last couple of months of work and everything, and I haven't had the time to do it. But of course, at least in the last couple of weeks, a fair amount has happened in the world of Doctor Who, in lots of news coming out about Series 11, new little interesting tidbits of what's going on. So I thought what better to do than round up all the Doctor Who Series 11 news in this video. Now just quickly before I get started again, I am back on Twitter if you want to follow me. I've got a brand new account. After my account got locked and stuff after the birthday bans, if you ever saw anything about that. So here is the link to it just there. Go and hit follow button, come and help me build my subscribers, my followers even back up, and that'd be greatly appreciated. But now it's time to look at what do we know, what is going on for Doctor Who Series 11. So the first sort of major kind of moment of the last sort of week or two was when we got the teaser during the World Cup final. At half-time of the World Cup final we got our first, what we thought was going to be more of a kind of actual showing of the series, maybe a proper trailer, but it turned out this was just a sort of teaser, as it were, which kind of, you saw all of the main characters in the trailer, but it was very much one that specifically filmed for this moment, was related to the football mostly, and didn't show any footage from the new series as well. So it was kind of, I think, quite a good way to engage the mainstream audience who aren't really thinking about Doctor Who, because this is putting sort of the Doctor Who characters in a sort of non-Doctor Who setting almost, and kind of just getting people engaged via that, I think, which I think is quite a good idea and a good way of sort of trying to do it and not almost alienating them by saying, look, it's Doctor Who as you always imagined it. It's actually, these are new characters, but it's not really, doesn't really feel like Doctor Who, does it, this bit? So I think for the audience they were catering for in that moment, this teaser works quite well. But of course, for us fans, when we got to that day, it was a little bit of a disappointment, probably because we didn't see any footage, we saw nothing, there was very little dialogue, there just wasn't really very much going on in that teaser, so yeah, it wasn't the most exciting thing, but of course we knew what was coming on Thursday with San Diego Comic-Con, the sort of biggest comic convention in the world. Doctor Who goes there every year, and we usually get some sort of big trailer or announcement or whatever, and of course this time round, it was the Series 11 trailer. And while I thought this was a fantastic trailer, it's only 40 seconds long and doesn't really give away too much, but I think, in the most part, that's a really good thing, because what has been the problem sort of in the last few years, I think, with trailers is almost they've given away too much. If you are willing to break it down, they give away plot points or give away new monsters in the show and that kind of stuff, and I think you can build up the hype without giving away too much. It is possible to do that, and I think that's what Chris Chibnall and the team are definitely going for with this series. It's like they're trying to hype it up without telling us anything, basically, which I think is the best way forward. It's what I'm really excited about for this series. But I think with this trailer, it gave us a glimpse of what's going on in the new series. It certainly gave us a feel for how epic it's going to look and how cinematic it's going to look. Some of these new worlds, that planet with the green sky, looked absolutely amazing. Honestly, it looked like the best sort of alien world we've seen in Doctor Who ever so far. I think some of those other sort of shots of that desert that we saw in the trailer and just various other ones, they look so cinematic and so fantastic. I think that's what I'm almost as excited about for this series, is how it's going to look. It's really going to look high budget, it's going to look cinematic, it's going to look like you could almost see it on the big screen. And I think that's such a step forward for Doctor Who. It's hardly been bad for the last few years. The CGI has been very impressive, and in a lot of ways it has been very cinematic and very sort of spectacular to watch. But I think it's the right moment, and it's great to just take that next step. Certainly using these new types of cameras they're doing with this series will help that, and I think probably having slightly less episodes means you can put more budget into each episode, so then you can just produce a little bit more with it, and so I think that's all just going to create that cinematic effect, which is going to give it such a sort of epic feel to the series, I'm hoping for at least. And of course we got to see all the main cast in this trailer, giving them sort of, it's only Jodie getting lines at the moment, the Doctor, but it's nice to see for her to get some lines. I think that was good. And I think what's quite interesting and really positive is that they've clearly chosen as a marketing ploy to not call the companions companions, but to call them friends in this series. And I think that's a really good idea. It's sort of a subtle change, but it's just kind of raising the profile, I think, of the companions a bit more and calling them, they're the Doctor's friends. They're not some archaic idea of a companion, somebody who runs alongside you but is below you in that sense. I think that the idea of them being the Doctor's friends, that she's just got 3 mates she's hanging out with in the TARDIS and going around the universe. That's, I think, is a great idea, and can really sort of, and just really gives a nicer, more friendly feel, I think, almost to the TARDIS team. But I don't think, like some people have been criticising it, saying, oh, it's because Jodie can't run can't hold her own in the show, therefore they've got to surround her with companions and make them more important by calling them friends just because she's not going to be able to handle the role. I think that's all rubbish. That is all rubbish. They're just doing it because that's the direction that Chris Chibnall wants to take it. He wants to make it more of a TARDIS team, which is what we had in the 1960s. This isn't anything new for the show. This has been happening throughout sort of different eras of the show. You've always had 2 or 3 companions. It's almost been more uncommon to only have 1 companion throughout the history of Doctor Who. It's sort of, yeah, you more commonly had 2 or 3. So I definitely don't see this as a problem. I see this as a step forward and something really sort of to look forward to through this series. Now, we had a few interesting sort of comments from Chris Chibnall during San Diego Comic-Con, sort of with little details and specifics about Series 11. And I think one of the interesting and quite important factors that he mentioned was that every single episode of this series is going to be a single episode. It's going to be a single self-contained story. Rather than having lots of 2-parters or sort of long stories and whatever, it sounds like we're very much going to be going on 10 different adventures through this 10-episode series, which I think is to some degree quite a bold sort of stance to go for, because it's quite ambitious to start off with, to try and come up with 10 individual stories to put together into a series. That's a lot already, but then to sort of do that for his first series as well, I think was quite a bold and an interesting choice. I think for me, I have always kind of preferred the 2-part stories and having those deep arcs running through the series, hence why I love series like Series 5 because of that arc running through it, or Series 9 because of the 2-parters in there. And so I'm a little bit disappointed maybe that we haven't got at least 1 2-parter, like the finale or something isn't a 2-parter. I mean, it's not to say that like episode 9 will finish on a cliffhanger which leads into the finale, that's very possible as well. But they do seem to be relatively separate stories in that sense, which, yeah, to some degree is a little bit disappointing, but I can certainly see why they're going for it. I think what will be important for this series is that it does have a strong arc, a plot, sort of story arc leading through this series to really kind of glue all the episodes together and lead us through to some sort of epic conclusion, epic finale, because we all love a big blockbuster finale, don't we? We always love the stakes are raised higher than ever every single series, and you can't really keep doing that, but I love that at least. That's just a little sort of thing I love with the series, and so I hope we get to that point, and I hope that they're sort of able to bring in some sort of arc that weaves its way through these different places they're going around the universe, to be able to create that epic finale and epic conclusion as well. So I'm not 100% sure that this is the best idea in the world, but I'm certainly sort of optimistic and looking forward to it. And I think in many ways it will be nice to see 10 different settings, 10 different worlds in 10 episodes. Particularly as we've got slightly less episodes, I think it's to some degree good that we're spreading it around and going to lots of different adventures, because otherwise, if we had 2 or 3 2-parters, you might only end up with like 6 stories throughout this series, which would kind of maybe feel a bit lacking. If there's a rubbish 2-parter, you've kind of lost 25% or 20% of the series is gone, just like that. So yeah, I think it definitely can work. One of the other key details that Chris Chibnall mentioned during Comic-Con was that there will be a Christmas special this year. We are going to be getting one, presumably on Christmas Day, so it's nice to have that confirmed finally, because it had been very, very, very up in the air. For sort of the last 6 months already, nobody knew anything. Nobody was saying anything about what's going on with a possible Christmas special. Some people were saying, no, it's definitely not happening. Other people were like, well, it's always happened, so it probably will happen again. And it turns out that is the way forward. We are going to be getting another Doctor Who Christmas special, which I'm really, really happy about, because although, let's be real, a lot of the Doctor Who Christmas specials have not been particularly great episodes. They've been a little bit naff. We think of The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe. We think of Voyage of the Damned. We think of The Return of Dr. Mysterio. There's some, yeah, they're not always the greatest episodes in the world, but I think it's almost a bit nostalgic, and it's kind of, for me at least, having had it since 2005, a Christmas without Doctor Who just isn't right. It doesn't feel right. Like, my Christmas Day ends with Doctor Who, that's how it works. So to not have that would have been very, very strange. So overall, I'm pretty happy about that. I mean, it will be interesting when Series 11 actually starts, as to how long a gap we have between the end of Series 11 and the Christmas special, because at the moment it looks like Series 11 isn't going to be starting until maybe the 5th of October, somewhere early October time, which would probably push the series running through until pretty much the end of November, start of December, so that it'd sort of be like Series 9, where there was only about 3 weeks or so between the end of Series 9 at that time and the Christmas special that year. So I don't think it's ideal, because I think it will again be another separate story for the Christmas special, but it's certainly better to have one than not at all. And tying into a lot of what Chris Chibnall and the team are seeming to be trying to do with this series, with making everything new, was the comment at San Diego Comic-Con that there will be no Daleks in this series. For the first time since 2005, we're going to be going through a whole year without seeing a Dalek. At least that's what it seems like. And to some degree, I hope that happens almost just to blow this stupid rumour that the BBC are contractually obliged to use the Daleks in an episode at least once in a year, every year, because they obviously managed it even in 2009 by slipping it into the waters of Mars for a cameo. So that there's every year since 2005 we've seen a Dalek in a televised Doctor Who story. So we still can't really debunk that rumour unless that doesn't happen at all this year. And to be honest, I'd be happy if we don't see them. I think we won't, and I'd be very happy that we don't, because I don't think they need to come back just yet. Give them some space, give them some time before sort of make them that big kind of epic realisation of them coming back after like 2 or 3 or 4 years. And then it will be a big thing, it'll be a shock when they turn up, particularly if it can be a secret as well, and suddenly at the end of like the series 12 finale or something, the Daleks turn up again for the first time in their massive battle fleet or whatever. That would be epic and exciting. And so just chucking them in every series into another episode would be a waste of time for them, I think. So I think it's important they have a break. Same with the Cybermen, as they were in the Series 10 and the Series 8 finales. It's definitely time to rest them for a good 2 or 3 years minimum. And I think where we can, just bring in new monsters to this series. I mean, it's what they seem to be going for anyway. But I think it's just nice to kind of almost expand the universe a little bit by not just bringing back old villains again and again and again. Maybe bring back 1 or 2. I know the Centaurans are rumoured, so I wouldn't mind them back. That'd be quite nice. To have them as actual villains again would be quite good. But other than that, give us lots of new ideas, lots of new monsters, new aliens, new villains for the Doctor to fight. I think that would be great for the show. The other thing that was revealed at Comic-Con was the Doctor's new sonic screwdriver, which has come back this year, sort of properly full-time, and it looks like the sunglasses, of course, should be gone as well. It's an interesting little design. It's almost sort of slightly bent at the end, which looks quite a little bit different to certainly what we're used to. And interesting, they've gone with a sort of orangey, yellowy light on the end of the sonic screwdriver for the first time in, I can't remember when. I don't think we've ever had that colour before, so I think that's quite nice to go for a different colour as well. It's a completely different design, which I think is a good idea compared to what Peter had for Series 10, his last series. So I'm happy about that. I mean, I just don't really have that strong opinions about the sonic screwdriver, really. Like, it's not personally, like, I'm not sort of great for buying the props and stuff and the toys and that kind of thing, so I'm not going to buy a sonic screwdriver. And it's sort of a small enough thing that it doesn't really faze me too much about its use in the show and what it looks like in the show, as long as it's not being used a ridiculously large amount, which I'm sure it won't be. So I think it looks fine. I like the different colour, but other than that, I don't really have strong opinions on it, to be honest. Not related to San Diego Comic-Con, this news. It was a fair while ago, probably about a month or 2 ago now. I've just never got round to doing the video because I've been hadn't had the time to do it since then. But it was, of course, the announcement of the new composer for Doctor Who Series 11 called Segun Akinola. A fairly unknown composer, I think it's fair to say, who hasn't really sort of done a huge amount of stuff that people have been aware of. He's done a couple of sort of TV shows and documentaries for the BBC, which listening to some of the stuff on SoundCloud sounds fantastic, and I've really sort of enjoyed listening to that stuff. I think he won some sort of BAFTA Breakthrough Award last year as well, so he's kind of a sort of young, up-and-coming composer, I think. And I think that's quite a nice idea for Doctor Who, to kind of bring somebody who's not really done a huge amount before, but has got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and is able to kind of show that off in a massive series like Doctor Who. I think is a really fantastic opportunity for him, and for refreshing the show in that sense as well, because as much as I've loved Murray, it was time for him to go. He composed the show for basically 13 years, so I think he was just naturally, after that point, doing this music for the same show for 13 years, you're going to start running out of ideas. So I think to some degree he'd been exhausted of ideas. In Series 10 it didn't feel quite as great as the score of Series 9 or Series 8, and it was starting to drop off a little bit. So as much as I love Murray, I was happy that he was moving on, and I think this is a great choice as well. It sounds like, from the stuff I've heard on SoundCloud, it's quite sort of cinematic, the sort of music that Segun's been putting together, but also using some quite interesting sounds in his music as well. So I think that should fit quite nicely with Doctor Who, and with the feel that they're going for Series 11 as well, giving it that epic feel, but still keeping it as properly Doctor Who. And I think one of the final encouraging comments from Chris Chibnall was about Series 11 being very much a jumping on point, that you don't need to know anything before you go into this series. You can just watch it having never seen an episode before, and you'll be able to understand it and it'll make sense again. So I think it sounds a lot like this is going to kind of be like Rose, like the 11th Hour. It's going to be not a reboot, but a soft, if you want to call it a soft reboot, I don't really know what the right word for it is, but a soft restart almost, a sort of a starting point for people where everything is explained all over again about who the Doctor is, probably about the TARDIS, about the sonic screwdriver, maybe about the Time Lords and that kind of stuff. We're going to cover that ground again, which I have no problem with. It's quite nice to sort of just have that all seen again in the show, and then giving an opportunity for a new audience to be welcomed in to Doctor Who, which which I think is fantastic and is what the show needs at the moment. So I think that's really promising going forward. But they also said there'll still be references in there for the old fans like us who've been watching it for goodness knows how many years. We'll still have little moments and little references to be able to enjoy, and that's good. I think that's the sort of balance to strike where maybe Moffat towards the end of his era went a little bit too much into the self-referential moments and fan service and going away from sort of introducing new fans. Series 10 brought that back a little bit, but I think Series 8 and to a larger degree Series 9 kind of just pushed too many fans away because it was just too difficult to follow if you're not massively into the series. So I think that's the right approach Chris Chibnall's taking, and it should, fingers crossed, work really well for Series 11. So just to wrap up this video, overall I'm getting very, very excited for Series 11 now. I mean, I'm going to be honest and say I haven't sort of been that hyped for the series up until recently. I've just kind of it being so far away and not really hearing anything about it has made it very difficult to get excited about this series when we just don't know anything. And to a large degree that's what I prefer. I don't like, in the past I've been looking at filming pictures for series, the Capaldi era, and trying to find out as much information as I can, whereas this time around I don't want to know stuff. I want to be surprised. I know that's what Chris has basically done so far, but I know there have been filming pictures out there which other people have been doing videos on, and that's great, but I don't want to look at those. I don't want to see those pictures. I don't want to be spoiled in that element as really at all, as much as I can avoid it, which is why there's been less videos, because I just haven't really wanted to talk about the sort of spoilery stuff because I don't want to spoil the show for myself. So I'm really sort of looking forward to just kind of having a fresh start into Doctor Who, not really knowing too much about the series to come, but then giving you guys my sort of honest opinions about what I'm thinking about the show based on not really knowing a huge amount going in, because I'm definitely, the closer and closer we get to Series 11, you'll see more and more videos from me. I'll be reviewing every episode, previewing some of the episodes at the very least, and hopefully just discussion topics about different sort of things going on in the show at that time, and hopefully just bringing lots of exciting and good content for you guys is hopefully the way forward in the future. It's nearly here though, isn't it? We've got maybe a couple of months, sort of 10-12 weeks maybe, until the new series of Doctor Who comes. And it's been a long time coming. Obviously the last sort of proper series of Doctor Who finished over a year ago now, so it has been a long old wait. But the wait is nearly over, the hype is building, everything's getting very exciting, lots of exciting things coming sort of out of San Diego Comic-Con, lots of good news. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, guys. Let me know how much you're hyped for Series 11, what are you most excited about for the new series, and to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you again, I'm sure it will be very soon, for another video. Goodbye.